I won an award! I'm so happy! Hi guys, Overgone Edge here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my experience at the Fen Model Show in Ely, how it differs to shows like Golden Demon, and my own learnings. Let's get into it. So, what is the Fen Model Show, or FMS? The show is essentially a painting exhibition which celebrates painters from all over the world focused on miniature painting. It's actually a show that allows people from all over the world to celebrate their creations and bring them for others to see. Pretty much what you'd expect from an art gallery exhibition or a museum, but focused on miniature painting. Now, that doesn't just mean 28 scale. As you can see in the video, there's things such as busts, there's large vehicles, there's tanks, there's titans, there's all sorts of different things. And what that leads to is a wider variety of creations from people. So you'll actually see things that you might not necessarily be exposed to, let's say if you went to Golden Demon. And this is really cool because for me, as someone who's really looking to get into the higher echelon of painting, to understand high level display painting and just widening my horizons, get a better idea of what's actually out there, a show like this is an excellent place to come to and start. So, whilst I've been in the painting scene for quite some time now, I haven't actually attended many competitions or seminars or even exhibitions like this. I've actually only been to one other, or rather two events. The first was actually last year's event of the Fen Show, and I just kind of showed up late, turned up and was just like, hello. And then the other was Golden Demon. A lot of the time when I go to shows, I'm actually just trying to learn by talking to people, by looking at models in the hand. And people say a lot, when you see a model in the hand, it's totally different from seeing it online. There's no editing that you can do to a picture because it's in the hand. So you're actually just looking at things as they're intended to be seen. I think one of the best things about this though was the lighting setup. I felt like everyone had a really good chance and how the lighting was set up. You could actually see people's models as they were intended to be seen. So in other shows, I've had a really difficult time seeing what's going on. The lighting's been really bad, and it was actually a really nice breath of fresh air to be able to see and look around. I think being at Fen was a really amazing experience. For the first time, my wife actually came with me, so it was actually really nice to be able to attend this with her and be able to share that experience. And you can see people all over and just hanging out and enjoying each other's company. But it was actually a really nice experience to just be able to say, look, this is what we do. It's not just me. There's so many other people out here painting all sorts of different type of things. So it was actually quite nice because it wasn't just Warhammer. She had an experience to be able to see what other people are doing that isn't just Warhammer, and it was actually really cool to open her up to that. Now, Fen is a 2-day event, and it's split into two categories of skill level, I guess. One is standard and one is masters. Now, I say I guess because it's a bit more complicated than that. On the first day, you basically have the judging for standard, so the entirety of standard is judged, and then on the next day, the second day, the Sunday, you'll be judged on masters. And what this separation does is it lets people who feel comfortable enter into the category that they want to. Now, one of the tricky things here is the kind of messaging around that. Standard doesn't necessarily mean you're not good enough to enter into masters. It's actually just the way that you want to be judged, and I'll get into that in a bit more. But what it meant was that on the first day there were so many people, like a lot of the models have actually disappeared by the time I was able to film. Most of the time I had people coming up to me and talking to me, so it made it a bit difficult to film. So I do recommend pausing the video if there's really something that sparks your interest. And of course, I'll have a link to the website where you can view all the photos of models that were taken. Now, overall, I would say that the quality level for across standard was really high. I entered standard myself because I was under the assumption that I had to be really good or win an award to be entered into masters. I've never actually won a painting competition, mainly coming runner up or commended, and there's reasons for that, so I'll get onto that. So I wanted to enter into standard and just to see how I could do, and it went well. So I think that I'll be going for masters next time, because I feel a lot more confident in my abilities and what I'm able to achieve. Now, what I will say, the jump from standard to masters is kind of insane. The skill level in masters is absolutely wild. You've got people like Arnaud Lazaro, you've got Phoenix painting miniatures, you've got APS minis, you've got all of these brilliant painters who just show up and put their stuff on the show. Now, that can be daunting, but again, it's not about comparing yourself, I guess, and this is a tricky thing, this is very debatable, but it's not about comparing yourself with other people. It's to celebrate, be inspired, but compare yourself with yourself. I think that's the only way you can get over the imposter syndrome of being entered into a competition and seeing the work from here. Now, this model in particular, I can't actually remember the name of the woman who painted it, but it really blew my mind. It's really large, and the way it's painted, now I'm not actually going to be deconstructing people's paintwork in this video. I'm mainly just going to be talking about some of the stuff that inspired me and my general experience, but this really blew me away. It was beautiful, really beautiful. I didn't want to touch it, I didn't want to turn it around, so I kind of just avoided it. But man, seeing that up close in person was absolutely insane. And then you have it next to something so tiny like this, so that's the kind of range of what you could see people painting. Now, the categories themselves, that's something, let's get onto that point, because people could enter one model or they could enter several as long as they didn't take up too much space. So what was cool is that there were no categories in terms of like type of model. So like there was no separate category for bus versus category for large. Everything was kind of, people were able to bring what they wanted. So for example, here we've got a 75 scale model next to a normal 28, I say normal because it's what I paint, 28 scale model. But what that meant was that people were able to bring in what they felt confident in. And just seeing the skill range of what people can do was really mind-blowing. So here, for example, we've got some historical models, and being in mainly a Warhammer painter, I hadn't really had much exposure to historical models, but after coming to a show like this and seeing people's work, I was really inspired to actually say, okay, you know what, I'm going to pick up a bust and see if I can actually get into old school historical modelling. But I think my heart is still in fantasy. Just to seeing the difference in what people were able to do with the size of the models they were there. I think one of the biggest things I noticed in the jump from standard into masters was the difference in storytelling, and which is kind of done through the bases, but also the compositions and the way the models were raised on those bases. Now, some of these models you probably might have recognized from Golden Demon, others you'll recognize from Instagram. For example, this smaller one that says it's got a medal on it, the axe and the sword, I've definitely seen that before. Excuse me if I can't remember everyone's names, but it was just really incredible to see things that you kind of gawk out online in person, and the quality most of the time just goes up. Like, some of these models are absolutely ridiculous. Another thing I will say though is that actually seeing the model in hand and being able to pick it up actually shows you that a lot of the work we see online isn't as unachievable as we might think. Now, that's not to say that these models aren't brilliant. I mean, look at Dan Latham's, who's won gold for Golden Demon, and many other awards. It's not like it's easy to get there, but also kind of shows you the gap isn't that as big as you might think, even though it is quite large. And a lot of these people are like you and me. They're not full-time artists, they have jobs, and they kind of paint when they get a spare moment. But when I look at people like APS Mini's Anthony and his work, and I just think, wow, this person has spent hours upon hours upon hours upon this work, and it is really inspiring. It kind of just shows you what you'd have to go through in order to win. And then you have brilliant painters who, just like me, get commended. But none of that's to discourage you or say that you're not a good painter. Again, art is subjective. It's just to show you that for many reasons, sometimes we get an award and sometimes we don't. So I would just definitely say though, being able to look through this and have this experience has kind of shown me and encouraged me a lot. It's made me think that it's not just unachievable to reach the kind of goals that you might have or that we might set for ourselves. But when you do see people's work up close, it kind of does blow you away, and you do ask yourself, okay, well, how have they done that thing? How have they got it so accurate? Like, one of the things that I wasn't able to really do well or capture in this video, because I only had about half an hour to film before the shop closed, was just really close-ups of people's work. So for example, this is Jamie, a man painting miniatures, and he was one of the judges. And at the moment, he's probably my favorite painter, for his ability to use color and paint very, very well. And it's just inspiring to be able to see his work up close, as well as many others. But having his work next to someone else's who's drastically different styles, it does beg the question, so how do they actually judge? Well, I think one of the things that the judges said, because they actually had a seminar on this, and that's one thing that the show definitely had over Golden Demon, was just the amount of seminars around painting, the amount of talks and demos, of which I was actually able to do one. And my demo was focused on oil painting in relation to volumes and actually how to use the medium. Now, I only actually got an hour to give this presentation, so a lot of things had to be condensed. I also went first, which meant loads of the technical issues kind of got ironed out on me. Now, I'm very comfortable in front of a camera. I'm very comfortable with public speaking and being in front of people, so it wasn't too much of a problem, to be honest. I probably would have liked to have gone second, but hey, it is what it is, and I'm really grateful to have been able to actually get up there and give the opportunity. The only thing I would say though is because of the timing, so my presentation demo was on the same time as when doors were opening, so people were kind of placing their models down as my show was starting, which meant that I had a few moments where there was pretty much no one there, and then suddenly a whole plethora of people just came in. But a lot of people ended up who wanted to see my demo missed it because they couldn't attend. But I think next year, when they sort out their scheduling and improve that process, it will be great, because other events, Golden Demon, for example, didn't have any demo when I went to it last year. There was nothing to really watch or to learn from, and having so many master painters giving demos was really, really special. And it was just exposes you to think in different ways. They had like weathering, to painting skin, to storytelling. And going back to the judges, when things are painted to such varying degrees, and you have people who are painting large models to people who are painting smaller scale, how do you determine if that is good or what deserves to win gold? And well, win gold, bronze or silver. And I think one of the best things about an open judging system means that you'll have multiple silvers, multiple bronzes, multiple golds, and as opposed to first through the line, which is what Golden Demon does, which is like the top three. And some people have, like, I think both have their strengths, but what it does do is it says, okay, at the moment you are painting at this quality that we think that your best model on show is at this standard. Now, in the seminar about judging and about what to actually look for in competitions and how the judged our work, which was actually just before the presentation where they showed the awards for the Masters category, the judges explained what they were kind of looking for and the difference between standard and mastered. So for standard, basically there were a lot more people in standard than there were masters. And in standard, what the judges are looking for is, can you paint to a consistent level across the board of your miniatures? Are you able to use values and the principles and the fundamentals? Or have you got that down? There obviously some areas that might not be as up to scratch, but have you got genuinely most of those techniques down, and do you know what you're doing? How are you able to master one technique? Now this was interesting because the judges had different ideas of what they were looking for. One of the judges was very much focused on mastering one technique and doing it very well. Others were looking for consistency across the board, across the entirety of the model. And others were just looking for like, how clean is your work? So what it meant was that the judges needed a tiebreaker, and each of them had a different idea of what they liked. So I think that's one of the reasons it actually worked so well, I guess, for this kind of category in standard. In masters, the way I've understood it is that it's basically that, but you're being judged, I guess, more harshly because there's more of an expectation that you can do these things better. That's why you're entering masters. I think that you're looking for different types of feedback. In standard, you might be like, okay, well, you know, your work can be cleaner. You can make sure that your brush strokes are in the right place and they're conveying the right message. Where in masters, it's a lot more about, well, how well have you told that story? How convincing is this? How have you mastered the different fundamentals and techniques across the work? So it was just really interesting to hear those different perspectives. And that's what's kind of crazy, is the fact that there were pretty much 4 judges for both categories, masters and standard, and getting them to agree apparently was pretty tricky. But each of them were honourable and really respectful to each other. And that actually brings me to the next section of this video, which is a kind of review of my own work. Now, as you know, I got commended, so it goes commended, bronze, silver, gold. And for me, I wasn't really expecting anything coming to this competition. I was actually more excited to be there. However, that doesn't mean that I didn't want to win something. Unfortunately though, I just didn't end up finishing Katsumi. I remember actually painting her and ending up putting her down and was like, okay, I'm kind of done. And with the intention to go back at a later date, and I just pretty much didn't do that. And the same thing happened for my Space Marine Captain Terminator, who was actually the first model I'd painted for like a kind of display level. And one of the things they said when the judges came to me and I asked for feedback is they explained that when they first saw the model, they were like, okay, bronze, that's a bronze at least. But when they started to examine it, they were like, okay, like at least at the front, this is really good. Maybe it's higher than a bronze, maybe it's a silver. And then they turned it around and at the back, I just hadn't put in the same amount of effort. I hadn't finished it. There was parts of the model that just weren't cleaned up properly, weren't finished. And I was kind of gutted, but I shot myself in the foot because I just didn't end up finishing or going around the rest of the model to make sure that I'd cleaned everything up, even though I'd intended to. I think this is on me for my time management, which I can definitely improve on, especially if I'm going to want to take things to competitions. But it's okay. I believe you can enter the same model in the following year, so I'll make sure to just make those improvements and clean up and just get consistency, because they said the front of the model really brilliant, the back lacking and kind of just looked unfinished, which is painful to hear but very fair. And I think that's the feedback that you really need. So if you've ever been wondering how to improve, getting feedback, putting the work in front of people, key thing being people you can trust. And I knew exactly all the things I needed to do. There were some things that were a bit more of a surprise, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, no, that's a good point. Like understanding where the light actually hits in those areas and how it would reflect off, and just adding temperature to color temperature to different areas. So there was some really specific feedback, which is really helpful. But for the most part, I was like, yeah, okay, I know I could have done that. I should have done that. Yeah, you're completely right. I should have approached it this way. But again, really validating. And also really just like, damn it, I could have had a trophy at the end, but never mind, it's okay. Like definitely a learning I'll take into the next part. I think learning how to manage your time as a painter and someone with a full-time job, I think less is more. Trying not to do too much doing one thing and doing it really well and making sure that you finish it off properly before moving on to something else. It's definitely something to consider, like worth focusing on, and probably a topic on its own, especially since now I'm sponsored by Games Workshop and receive like items from other product model creators. It's something that I've had to kind of learn to contend with, and something I'm definitely having to learn to get better at. But overall, I was still really happy to receive the awards. Now, there's going to be a section in this video where I talk about the core and what it actually is, from my understanding, but I'll get onto that in a bit. Because in the next section, what we're going to be looking at is some models from David Soper. Now, you've probably heard of this gentleman. They've been in the painting scene for a long time. And one of the best things about this show, actually, another really great thing that they were able to do is get in contact with him. And he brought along all his, well, I don't know if they were all of them, but a lot of his Golden Demon entries that he'd gotten trophies with like gold, bronze, silver, all of that kind of attached. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to actually be able to film these because there was so many other people around me at the time also wanting to take a look. But it was incredible, like seeing this stuff now. You're like, okay, if that's like a few years old or several years old, you can see like, wow, back then that must have been mind-blowing. Now it's like, okay, but you can see where the influence has come from on maybe other people's models, like what they've been doing now that David was doing a lot earlier. But they're still mad. It's still crazy. I mean, look at this one, like the actual conversions that he's done on these models, the sculpting. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like even that, this thing, I feel like this is what, 3-4 years old. I can't actually remember. The undercards had the date next to it, but I don't actually remember looking to be able to tell. But I just remember seeing this before online and being like, that is mad. And then the little nurgling at the top, like the level of detail that this guy's got into is just crazy. So it was just something that you don't really get a chance to see. Now, GW, what they did is the previous Golden Demon winners, they put their awards in the Warhammer world where you could see. But yeah, being able to see all of David's work, you were just like, wow, and it's really inspiring. And here, one of the things that was really cool is that when they came to the award ceremony, they got everyone to stand up. And it was really cool to see all the winners of bronzes. There were people that I definitely wasn't expecting to get bronze. I was actually expecting to get silver up there. And this is all just for masters. I totally missed filming the standard category, so apologies for that. But I only had time on the Sunday to film. So all the people have come up and they've done really well. They've managed to get bronzes. And what was nice is that they called out all of the names. They had them on the presentation on display, so you could actually see the names of the people that had actually won. And then they started to call up their silvers, and a lot of people, names I recognized, faces totally different, totally didn't, but it was cool just to see people getting awards and like see them like cheering, and it was just really wholesome. I didn't see anyone complain. Sorry for my camera, I had people bumping into me, I had to get out of the way. But it was just so nice, like, yeah, seeing people like Pascal do such a great job, and being able to hang out with these people and to see Martin run up and down and handing them their awards and taking photos. It was honestly, it was lovely. It was really nice just to have people clap for them and just say, you know, well done guys, and globally, like, yeah, genuinely awesome. Just a whole happy experience. And I think knowing you got a trophy but not having to figure out like, okay, how much better am I than this person, not even thinking about that. And there's a slide actually of just how many people, so this is actually on the standard day, this is on the Saturday, how many people were there. You can see how many models, I missed the entire row, but how many models of people. It was packed, and they had vendors, we could get models and busts as well. But it was just great. It was awesome just to really be in this community and just hanging around people and then just enjoying their company, whilst also just talking about painting and also other inspirations and finding out what people do for work. Archaeologists, for example, just seeing what people are doing. It was great. It was awesome. Now this is really cool because my friend Liam Hearn, also Phoenix Miniatures, came up and got gold for his absolutely beautiful bust, which is like this knight, female knight behind in front of a horse. And this is great. Like I've actually muted it, but honestly, the roar of applause was great. It was just lovely to see. And then you had people coming up as well, Lucas with his models, and just absolutely beautiful, beautiful colors, especially that purple like orc ogre thing with the hammer. Absolutely mad. It was just, yeah, and then you can like, okay, this makes sense. These guys are really, really, really good. And it was just nice. But the biggest thing I noticed, it was just, I guess, the lack of Warhammer models, that one. Actually, it was interesting to see that a lot of the models in gold, and I don't think this really matters, I don't think this meant anything, it was just probably what the people were painting. But it was just nice to see the difference, and he says that all Warhammer, Paul Davies comes up with all Warhammer, so yeah, never mind. But yeah, honestly, lovely to just get an understanding. And one day, I do believe I'll be able to get on on these stages in front of people and be able to like, yeah, just like feel like, okay, you've made it. And being able from like last year to not get anything to this year to get an award, it's really nice, and it's such a humbling thing as well, and you know that you're like developing. So my kind of idea towards competitions has changed. It's definitely improved, whereas I feel like at Golden Demon, you know, there can only ever be 3 winners with one major winner at the end with the Slayer Swords. And an event like this, the Mega Core, at the event like this for Best in Show, David Soper was giving the Mega Core, and it's actually nice to see so many people together. So like, there's a chance that you and your friends could actually all win trophies and standing up there together. And honestly, monumental achievement, monumental moment. Now, I don't actually have the recording of me winning my awards, but like I said, I hadn't won the year before, so I wasn't really expecting anything. Now, what is the core? So you'll have trophies, like you said, you'll have commended certificate, and then a few people, very few people, will be given this special award, which is called a core. Now, if you're from England, you'll recognize how you pronounce this. It actually says core, like, oh, like you have to get the breath behind it. You can practice it in the comments below. But the idea is that it's something that makes the judges go, wow, okay, wow, what is that? And I got that for my Katsumi. So again, like I said, probably if I had just spent more time on it, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. More time, ironing out all of those areas, bringing it all up to consistent level. Definitely, probably would have got a trophy. Definitely would have got a trophy. But honestly, getting up there after saying, oh, I never win anything, I don't expect anything, to my wife, and then getting my name called, I was just like, wow, this is super humbling, and almost brought me to tears, to be honest, because you work so hard and you're like, oh, if I had more time, I'd get more done, I'd do more if I had more time. And then, you know, it does hurt a little bit when you enter into something, you don't come away with anything. It is a little bit disappointing, but for those moments that, okay, I didn't get a trophy, I got something really cool and something that really stands out, that is super rewarding and very humbling. Anyway, I've been rambling for almost half an hour now, so let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about the format, and hopefully if I see you at an event, please don't hesitate to come say hello. I'll probably have to hide when I'm recording so I can actually get all of the footage needed, but honestly, like, that's why you kind of come to these events, to meet people. A lovely guy called Josh, called Jello Miniatures, really funny, attended one of my workshops as well. So you just get to meet people from all over, and apologies if I haven't called you out, but honestly, yeah, it makes it worth it. That's what makes events like this worth it. So okay, anyway, I will see you in another video. God bless you, have a good week, and take care. And if you liked the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, there should be a link in the bio to my Patreon. Thank you to all my loyal patrons, you make this possible. Bye for now.